Good morning, Crummers. Happy Sunday. Hope everybody is having a chilled Sunday morning post-Halloween yesterday. It's quite chilled here in this household. We didn't do much, but just took yesterday as it came. If you're in the UK, yeah. But well, we're going to do some light baking this morning and forget all about that. But wherever you are, if you're joining from Facebook, the Facebook group, or YouTube, please say hello. Let me know where you are in the world, or in the country, or wherever you happen to be, and let me know how you are. It is very, very grey and drizzly and rainy and windy here this morning in the Cotswolds. So I think it's Storm Aidan that's hitting us, but it is quite, it's definitely a morning for baking and getting warm and cozy and just chilling with a cup of coffee and seeing what happens. But as usual, we're going to just give a few minutes for you guys to come over and join us, and then we'll get into the bake. But if you haven't joined us before, hi, I'm Lou. I'm the writer, host, recipe developer of Crumbs and Corkscrews, the blog, and also the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, everything else like this. And every Sunday we do a live bake here in my kitchen in the Cotswolds. For you guys, just to chill out to on a Sunday morning. So grab your coffee, grab a pen and paper if you need to, and we'll be posting the recipe and everything. And in about a minute or so's time, looking over here, we're going to get started. But we are making a chocolate orange bundt cake today, and this is going to have a cheesecake filling as well. We're just rounding up the end of our baking into autumn sessions, ready to head over into the Christmas sessions. I said the same word in a couple of weeks' time. So we've got this one this week, and then we've got one just to finish off our autumn section, and then we're heading straight over into Christmas. So yeah, it's exciting. If you are in the UK and we're about to go back into a national lockdown for 4 weeks on Thursday, remember, I don't know, it is what it is. Just chill, bake, enjoy it, feel all warm and cozy, and look after everybody and your loved ones as well. But that's enough of that. That's politics, and we're not doing that. We are here to make cake. We've got 50 seconds and counting before we get going. And we're going to run through everything that we've got here for our chocolate orange bundt cake as well. So yeah, don't forget, let me know where you are. Pop it all in the comments. Over down here is this mirror thing between me and the camera. I never know which way to point, but we're pointing down there. Start my coffee before it gets too cold by the end of the session this morning. So, right. Coffee, pen and paper, Facebook, and you're ready to go. 9. We're nearly there. Last few coming in, come through the door. Come on. Yay, let's go. Right, let's get cracking. So today we are going to be making a chocolate orange bundt cake, and this one is going to be filled with like a cheesecake filling. So when you slice into it, you've got a rich, really nice chocolate sponge, and then you've got this orangey cheesecake filling. So it all comes into one, and you've got this really lush bundt cake. And if you head on over to the blog, we've done a chocolate orange cheesecake before on the Kitchen Live back in the lockdown sessions, so you can find that one as well, and that is a no-bake chocolate orange cheesecake. But today we are baking a chocolate orange bundt cake, and it's one of them things, it's great all year round, but as we're coming out of autumn, going into Christmas, It's got all those feels and tastes and smells and everything that makes it feel so really, really good. And you could make this as an alternative Christmas cake if you didn't want to. So it's quite a simple bake. There's nothing overly fancy about this. And again, it's one that maybe we can get the kids involved in as well, because there's lots of stirring and mixing up and things. So this one here is actually a Biscoff Bundt cake that I've made in the past, but this is the same shape that we're going to be going for today. And this is, it's just really, it's a super light cake. It's really nice and moist, and it's just perfect for afternoon tea or just a really nice dessert, or having a slice of cake and coffee with it. And we're going to be using a small Bundt pan, but you can easily scale this recipe up into a sort of a larger cake if you wanted, or if you've got Bundt pans that are a lot more intricate with designs, you've got lots of things there as well. And it takes about 15-20 minutes to prepare, and then it's just popped into the oven for about 45. So it's a quick and easy bake, this one. And Amita says yummy. Yes, it is. If I'm very honest, it is. So we're going to be getting into this one as well. So let's take a look at our ingredients. Now, the ingredients list looks slightly longer than you would normally expect for a simple bake. That's because we've got the filling in there as well. And by all means, you can make this without the cheesecake filling and just have it as a regular chocolate orange Bundt cake without that cheesecake filling in there. So running down the ingredients, for the cheesecake filling, we're going to need full fat cream cheese, which is in the fridge at the moment, a little bit of caster sugar, 25 grams, not a lot at all, and an egg, just one small egg. These are at room temperature. These have been out overnight. A tiny touch of plain flour, and then for our cheesecake filling, we're going to be using a little bit of orange flavouring. This is actually Valencian orange extract. You can get this in the supermarkets. This is an Asda own one, but you can get lots of different ones, or you could flavour it with some orange zest as well. But we want that cheesecake filling to feel really orangey and zesty against the chocolate sponge, so we're going to be using an orange extract, and I think it's like a couple of quid, if that. It's like $1.99 or something. So that's what we're going for with our cheesecake filling. Now, with our chocolate Bundt cake, chocolate cake being notoriously dry, so we've got some extra ingredients to just keep and help retain that moisture. And the dryness typically comes from the cocoa powder, which has this dehydrating quality. So we counteract that by adding a few extra ingredients in. So we're going to start off there with 100 grams of butter. This again is at room temperature. Slightly salted. If you prefer unsalted, add a tiny pinch of salt into your mix as well. Just helps bring out all that flavour there. We've also got some more sugar. We're using, again, just normal white, fine, super fine caster sugar. You could use golden caster sugar if you prefer. With this one, we're not using a soft sugar, like a soft brown sugar or anything, because it's going to make it it's just going to make it a little bit too caramelly, and we want the chocolate and the orange to complement each other. So we're just going in with the white sugar here. We're also going to be using some sour cream or Greek yogurt. I think we're using Greek yogurt today. I can't remember what I popped in the fridge last night. And that's what's going to help retain the moisture in our chocolate cake and just make it really nice and light as well. Cocoa powder. We've got 30 grams of, this is just regular cocoa powder. Now, last week on the pumpkin cake, I used the dark, intense cocoa powder, the Oreo style one, because I wanted that really deep, dark colour. We're just going to be using regular cocoa powder here because we're going to be using a milk chocolate rather than a dark chocolate to help flavour our cake. We're also going in with just regular plain flour again. This is plain flour. It's not self-raising flour. It's not cake flour, because we want our cake to have some structure when it's in its tin, and we'll talk about that when we get to looking at the tins in a moment. So we're just using regular plain flour. with a few rising ingredients, which is half a teaspoon of self-raising, half a teaspoon of baking powder and a quarter of a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda or baking soda. What we also have, and I haven't said as we've run down, is chocolate orange. We're going to be using the chocolate orange bar to melt up, but you could, it depends what you've got in the cupboard you get. You can also use the chocolate orange minis or a chocolate orange, or there's so many options now where it just used to be a chocolate orange. But we're going to be just melting the chocolate orange bar, and this is going to be our chocolate in our cake. We're going to obviously, I'm going to be using the stand mixer. You can do this by hand as well, and you can do it using a handheld mixer. It's probably you're going to be buttering, creaming the butter and the sugar. So if you want to, a hand mix is probably best just to get that going. But I'm going to be using the KitchenAid, but it's entirely up to you guys. Bundt pan wise, then these guys there are so many out there, so many different Bundts, so many different designs, so many different makes, and it's the Bundt cake itself is not recipe dependent, so you can use any recipe in here, but we're going to be talking about why we use this particular recipe when we start making it. But it's the design of our Bundt pan that just gives it that difference, that different texture. And you can get all sorts. The ones that I've got are just little sort of standard ones. Obviously you've seen the pumpkin one that we used last week, but you can get ones that look like gingerbread houses. For Halloween you can get skulls. For Christmas you can get all sorts, like a Christmas train and a Christmas village house. You get big ones, small ones, all sorts. I'm going to be using this one, which is my trusty little Bundt pan, which is perfect size, excuse me, for just a small cake. It's about 7 inches across, and it's quite a simple design, but as you can see, this is the typical of a Bundt pan. They'll have the ridges or the grooves on the outside, and then they'll have this chimney down the middle. And it's this one I picked up in Aldi years ago, and it was like 2-3 quid, something like that. But you can get them on various bases in Lakeland and of course on Amazon for, I think they're retailing about £5-6 at the moment. But it's a great little pan, especially if you're starting out making Bundts for the first time. And it's also non-stick, although we are going to put some release in there. This one is a lot bigger and it's a lot more detailed, and this is a Nordic ware one, and I think this one is called the Cathedral Vaulted ones. And if you can see on the side, it's all these intricate patterns. It's got beading around the edge and it's got these little indents all the way through, and when we turn it inside out we can see as well. Now these are cast pans and they are really detailed, so when you're using these, you want to be making sure that you do have plenty of cake release, or you've greased and buttered your pan really, really well, because you want it to get in all these nooks and crannies, because you want to have that beautiful design when you tip it out, but you want to be able to make sure you can tip it out as well. So this is a Nordic ware one, and these again, you can find them all over. They range in price, to be quite honest, from quite the simpler designs, about £20, all the way up to £40-50, but they are incredible. However, if you have a TK Maxx, which they are in the UK, or TJX, or in the States and elsewhere, you can often find Nordic ware pans in their kitchen section. And this one typically retails about £40, and I bought it in TK Maxx here in the UK for about, I think I paid 21 for it. So it's a beautiful pan when it's baked in, but it's just when it's just the two of us, it's quite big. I think this works out about 2 litres, and we'll talk about litres when we are measuring and filling our Bundt pan. So we are going to be using my little trusty Aldi one though as well. But if you can find them, they make absolutely beautiful cakes, and You've seen Nigella does one with Christmas trees or little fir trees in a ring, and then she just sprinkles it with icing sugar. That's in a Nordic web pan as well. So I will link out to these afterwards if you want to go and have a look. You can spend hours looking at these. They've just released some Disney Frozen ones as well, which are incredible. Right then, let's have enough waffle. Let's get on to the recipe. So first up, we're going to make our cheesecake filling, and then we're going to get our cake ready and into the oven. So for our cheesecake filling, it's ever so simple. I'm just going to move some bits out of the way. And we're just going to pop it into our stand mixer then, and yeah, we'll do it. So we're going to do this all in the stand mixer, and we're going to use the paddle attachment. Let's just move the chocolate out of the way, the important things. And out of the fridge. So our cheesecake filling is 125 grams of cream cheese. And we're just going to pop that in here. And again, full fat cream cheese, because we don't want it to disintegrate when it's baked, a bit like when we do the cheesecakes, the no-bake cheesecakes. We're also then going to add into here 25 grams of caster sugar for our sweetness. Got a bowl for dirty stuff today. We're also going to add in our teaspoon of plain flour. This is just going to help everything bake together. And we've got our egg. Rid of that one. And then in with our orange extract. So we just want a little bit of this. So probably half a teaspoon, because it is quite potent. It smells amazing, actually. If you don't want to do this as chocolate orange, you could use just regular vanilla for your cheesecake filling instead. And we're going to give that just a whiz up. So we want our egg now to all combine well. And it doesn't take long to do that. There we go. Who have we got? Good morning, Gina. Morning, Crummers. Yes, we're still Crummers. It's fantastic. We're going to be Christmas Crummers soon as well. So the cheesecake mix just whips together. We're whipping the cream cheese, the egg, that little bit of flour, our orange extract, and our sugar for our sweetness. Now, you can leave this just as the normal cheesecake filling, or if you want to, you can add a touch of food gel again, like we do. This is the tangerine one from Pro Gel by Angel Dust. I'm just going to add a little drop. I don't want to make it garish like our pumpkin. I just like a little touch of orange. There we are. So I'm just going to, because I want to use this as something else for the cake, just going to scrape this all down. I'm going to use the same pan and bowl. I'm not going to wash these up between these, but I'm going to make sure I've got all my cheesecake filling off my paddle before I get going on the next step. Let's just put that to one side for the moment. The cheesecake filling may look a little bit runny, but that's fine. Remember, you've got the egg in there as well, and we've just got a little bit of flour. But this, when it's baked, as a normal baked cheesecake, will firm up. So then, that's our cheesecake filling done. And let's just put that back. Oops. Doesn't want to play ball with me this morning, this one. There we go. That's our cheesecake filling done. So we're just going to pop that to one side now for the moment. We're not going to need that until we start assembling our cake. Right then, cake time. In the same bowl with the same beater. It's all going to be the same thing. We're going to be making our cake now. So we're going to start off by preheating our oven. Again, 180 degrees C, 350 Fahrenheit. If you know that your oven is a little bit different in temperature because you've been using a thermometer, then just tweak that to your own settings that you know. So I know this has its moments, so I'm just going to go just slightly over. Take out a baking tray, we don't need that in there. And we're just going to preheat that then for 180, 350 Fahrenheit. By the time we've pulled everything else together, our oven will be just right. So then, we're going to do this in two parts. It's not a one bowl mix. We're going to need, what we're going to do is to get that really lovely, rich chocolatey flavour. We're going to be making a chocolate paste almost that we're then going to add into our butter and sugar and egg mixture and then fold our flour all the way through. So to start off then, we want to melt some chocolate. Like I say, we're using the Terry's chocolate orange. This is the chocolate orange bar. And I want about 50 grams of this. This bar is 90, so is most of it. If you don't want to use chocolate orange, you can just make this recipe with regular chocolate. You can do it with dark chocolate or just regular milk chocolate if you want to. You don't have to use the chocolate orange. I love the smell. I'm not a fan of orange, but I love chocolate orange. I love the smell of this. So we're just popping this into a bowl. If you're doing this and you've got a microwave, remember, just blitz it at 30-second blasts and don't overcook the chocolate. We don't want it to burn or seize. So I'm just going to pop this now over a pan of simmering water. And we'll let that go. And if you're doing it in the microwave, 30-second blast, and then it's pretty much good to go. If it's not quite fully melted, then take it out of the microwave or off the heat and let that residual heat melt the rest of the chocolate. It's nice and gentle that way. So then we're going to start making our base of our cake. So we're going to just use a regular cake method of creaming the butter and the sugar. So we use the same spatula. I've got here 100 grams of room temperature butter. It's been out, so it's nice and soft. We don't want it straight from the fridge for this. Straight from the fridge makes it hard work for the mixer to cream the butter and the sugar and get it nice and light and pale and fluffy. And then we've got 200 grams, like I said, of regular white caster sugar. You can use golden caster sugar if you prefer, but I would say we don't want to use a soft or a dark brown sugar on this because we want that orangey flavour to come through. And if we're using a darker, richer sugar like a muscovado or a soft brown sugar, it's going to bring more caramelly tones into the taste of our cake and just take away from the chocolate orange slightly. So by using white caster sugar, we're having that lovely balance to get that flavour through. And pop that on and let it do its thing, just creaming the butter and the sugar. Start off low and then gradually bring the speed up on those. And whilst our butter and sugar are creaming and our chocolate is melting, we can prep our bundt tin. Now, so it's probably going to be a bit noisy with this going. Let's just going to let this do its thing for a moment, so then I can talk properly. Just gradually increasing the speed, just a touch as we go through. Start off low, and then we really want that butter and that sugar to cream together. And your butter will start to pale, and that's what we're looking for. So it's nice and light and fluffy. Let's have a little scrape down here. Oh. Oh, come on. Doesn't want to. Oh no, missed the KitchenAid. This cat's just a little bit tight sometimes. So give it a scrape down, get everything off the sides. And that's looking lush, and it is starting to pale. And when it's creamed, you should be able to just easily smooth this round. So the reason having that nice room temperature butter is we're not having to fight the butter to do its thing with the sugar. Oh. Let's just pop that back on just for a moment then. Check our chocolate. Let's turn the heat off on that just to let it. Okay, right. So we're going to grease our bundt tin. And there's lots of ways you can do this. You can use just a regular baking spray or like the Wilton pan release. You can butter it and flour it. If you're buttering it, melt the butter and give it a really good wash all over. And then with a sieve over flour, and then just tap it all around the pan, so you're flouring the inside of the pan. Make sure it's going to get into all those little bits and pieces there. What we're going to be doing is I'm going to be using my homemade cake release that I use all the time. You can find this on the blog, and I'll link to it. But we're just going to give a good coating in there as well, and we can make sure we get into all those bits and pieces. Now, even though this is a non-stick pan, I do like to make sure that it is well greased, because I don't want my bundt cake to stick in. And I've had that before. There's nothing more disheartening when you've made this beautiful cake and it doesn't come out of the pan. And I had that when I first tried the big Nordic ware bundt pan that we looked at earlier. And that's what got me thinking is how can I make sure that I can get it out properly. And that's when I started looking at making my own homemade cake release, because I used to use the spray, and the spray is not too bad on a pan like this where it's quite a soft design on the outside, but the Nordic wear ones, like you say, where you've got those beautiful intricate designs, they're a little bit you want to make sure that you can definitely get it out. And sometimes if you're using baking spray, it's not sort of quite getting into all the corners, or you can't tell if it has. But the thing with this is you can. And it's just a quick mixture of a little bit of vegetable oil, a little bit of vegetable shortening, such as Trex here in the UK. I think it's Crisco in the States, and some flour, and it keeps for ages. This one was made in August, and I'm about halfway through it at the moment, halfway through my jar. Now, it might look that we're putting quite a lot on here. The beauty of this as well is that we're not adding butter, like if you were to butter and then flour your tin, like I was just mentioning, which can then cause the outside of your cake to brown too much because it's sort of cooking on the outside. This is not going to taint your, your cake, and it's not going to cause it to over bake on the outside. So this is the homemade cake release. I just keep it in a mason jar in the cupboard. Right then. So whilst that's then just sat to one side, we've got our chocolate melted and we've got our butter and sugar creamed. We now want to add in our eggs. So we want 1.5 eggs or 2 small eggs for this. Depends on what size your eggs are. So these are just, they're quite small when I weigh them out, so they'll be fine here. Let's just get rid of those. Pop that in, and then again, just whip it through, whip all the eggs together. You can do them one at a time or both together if you want. So that's just you're gonna end up with a creamy, buttery, sugary, wet mixture, just as you would with a normal cake. But we want to make sure it's well combined, so when you're whisking it, you don't want to be seeing any little egg whites or anything, or egg yolks. So when it all comes together, like any normal cake, you're going to get that nice, then smooth, light, sort of quite thick, custardy look to your cake batter. Like that. I'm just going to scrape it down. If it looks like it might be splitting, don't worry. Sometimes it can do. You tend to get that if your ingredients might be different temperatures. So bringing everything up to room temperature can feel like a faff, but actually helps just give the cake not only a chance when it goes into baking, because they're already at the same temperature, but also when you're mixing your ingredients, they all come together lovely. So I'm just going to give that a final squinch through there, put that in there. So then, I said this is in 2 parts. So this bit is like the standard cake mixing, the creaming of the butter and the sugar and the eggs, and then we're making this chocolate paste. So let's grab our melted chocolate. Just get a hot trivet and take off any water off the base. We don't want it to still be working with the chocolate there. But we do want it nice and melted. So we've got our melted chocolate. Into here now, then we are going to add, we're going to be adding our sour cream. I have a funny feeling I might have used the cream cheese. I've used instead of using the cream cheese in here, I've used the sour cream in here, not the cream cheese. So we're going to make that one again. Oh, wonderful, Louise. But we're going to then be adding in our sour cream to our bagels. We're going to make our cheesecake filling again because I just realised I've added the wrong thing in. This is our full fat cream cheese. Well done, Louise. So I've run out of sour cream. So you can use Greek yogurt here instead, or you can, which actually I will use, or you could use buttermilk. But I know I've got Greek yogurt that needs to be eaten up, so I'm going to use this. Oh, wonderful. You know, I put them in the fridge last night when I measured them up and thought, right, now this side is the yogurt, this side is the cream cheese. I should have just labelled them. So then we're going to be adding our sour cream, or you can use buttermilk, or you can use Greek yogurt. I've got a little bit of Greek yogurt that needs using up, and I've used all the sour cream, which is now in the wrong place. And we want 80 grams of this. There we go. Oh, some things, you know, never work with animals and children. I'm not working with animals, but so added that into our melted chocolate. I'm also then going to add in our cocoa powder. So this is 30 grams of regular cocoa powder. Just tap that through. And then I'm also going to add, and it's not on the ingredients list, but I'm also going to add some hot water. And this is boiled water that is now ready to, has cooled down. So I want to add into here about 50 mils of boiled water. And let me just, there we go. I can't believe, do you know what, it looked right when I was mixing it, but then I thought it doesn't look definitely right. So mix through your butter, your melted chocolate, cocoa powder, sour cream, or Greek yogurt or buttercream, whatever you're using, your hot water into a paste. And I can't believe I've done that. Oh, I can. That's fine. We can make it. We can make it quickly. It's not a problem. But we'll just do it by hand instead. So we're mixing through our chocolate paste, and it's just a thick, looks a little bit like a chocolate ganache, really. And through. Just make sure it's well combined and it's nice and smooth. Then get rid of the ingredients that are wrong. Oh, wonderful. Oh dear. So into our eggs, butter and sugar, we're now going to add our chocolate paste. So this is the chocolate orange, the cocoa powder, the sour cream, although we're using Greek yogurt because we've made a bit of a mess. And our hot water and our cocoa powder. Make sure we get all of that in there. And we're just going to rinse this bowl because I'm going to need it. And then pop the chocolate in with here and then just give it a mix through. I've completely lost my train now because I've realised I've used the wrong ingredient. Give it a good mix through, don't overbeat it again, but it looks nice and smooth there for a chocolate mixture. Here we go. Give it a scrape down, and we're going to take this off now and we're going to add in and fold through first the flour and the raising agents. Now I haven't added it on this one, and I usually add it, but I get a lot of you don't want to, because usually kids are eating the cakes, but you can add a little bit of coffee powder. Now the fine ground coffee powder, the espresso powder, is perfect. This is the Millicano, so this is the barista style freeze-dried instant coffee. So you want a good spoonful of that and a little bit of water to make it into a thick paste. And the coffee actually brings out the chocolate flavour. It's not adding coffee to it, it's not necessarily adding caffeine to it because it cooks out, but it just helps intensify that chocolate flavour. So if you want to, you can add a little bit of coffee into there. So we've got then our chocolate mix ready to go. So in here is then 150 grams of plain flour. Now we're using plain because we don't want too much of a rise. The thing with the bun pan is you want a really, we want it nice and light and moist, which is why we're using like the sour cream to keep that moisture in, because the cocoa powder can dry. We are going to be using raising agents. This is bicarb soda or baking soda and baking powder, because we want it to have some lift. We want it to have some air. But we're using the plain flour rather than a cake flour, which is really fine, or a self-raising flour, which is going to add more lift, is because we want actually a nice tight crumb. And it's not a tight and dense crumb, it's tight, but it's still nice and light. And that's because when we tip it out of here, or even when we're baking, it needs some structure, because when we tip it over, it's going to let gravity do the work. But otherwise, if it's too fine, it can collapse, or we'll lose those that pretty pattern on the outside. So having this nice tight sponge crumb is key. So the plain flour helps keep that in. So, or all-purpose flour if you're not in the UK. So we've added our flour, and I've just folded that through, and I'm going to add a quarter of a teaspoon of bicarb and half a teaspoon of baking powder. And fold it through, and then we're just going to finish it off again on the stand mixer or with a handheld mixer if you prefer. And then we're going to make the cheesecake filling again. Pop on. And just give it a whiz through. It doesn't need a lot. So it's a nice, smooth chocolate mix. I'm just going to leave that then for the moment whilst we remake our cheesecake filling. So if you weren't with us at the start, the cheesecake filling sits inside the bundt pan, inside the chocolate cake. So you get this lovely baked cheesecake filling inside it, and that's going to be our really orangey bit, which will work with the chocolate orange sponge that we've just made. So for this, you end up with something that still does look like this, but this has got the wrong ingredients in it. We're going to need 125 grams of full fat cream cheese. In there. We're also going to need another egg. Now I keep my eggs in the fridge, so it's going to be a bit chilly. Now, if you need to bring your eggs up to room temperature quite quickly, the easiest way is just to pop them for a moment into some warm water. So I'm just going to use warm water from the tap, obviously not anything that's boiled or things, because we don't want our egg to crack. So I'm just going to pop some warm water into here from the tap. and pop our egg in there. And that will just help bring it up to room temperature, nice and not quickly, but sort of enough so we can use it for the bake. So there's things that we can get out of it. In the meantime then, whilst we're just letting that do, we're going to pop the other ingredients into here. So going back into what we need a little bit. Let's get the ingredients out. And some measuring spoons. Okay. This is where you see all the ingredients in the raw form. Let's move that there. So we're going to need 25 grams of caster sugar. So I set that there. And this, as I say, is just, that's granulated sugar. Oh, it's going to be one of those mornings, isn't it? Caster sugar. So this is just silver spoon caster sugar, super fine sugar. Again, you just use white sugar on this because we've done a bit like cake. We don't want to add anything too caramelly. So we want 25 grams. We're then also going to need a teaspoon of plain flour. Now I buy my plain flour in bulk and then keep it in a big thing. So a teaspoon of that. And I'm not packing it. So this is the thing when you're using measuring spoons or anything, is don't pack it in, because there's a thing on the blog about this is if you pack it, actually the volume, it might not be the right thing. So anything like that, just tap it off, and you can level it if you want to, but don't pack it down because you might end up having more than you need in your ingredients. So let's get rid of the flour. And then we're also going to add, as we were talking about it, we're going to be adding the orange extract if you want to. This is optional. So I'm going to add that in there. And that just brings together that orangey bit. If you don't want to make this as a chocolate orange one, you could use vanilla, like the homemade vanilla extract instead. Gina says, I'm sat here eating my porridge with eyes closed, pretending it's cake. I'm stood here thinking, oh crikey, I used the wrong ingredient in the first cheesecake filling. But yeah, I had toast this morning. Ian made bread just Friday, so I had toast with homemade bread. So we've got all our ingredients in here. We're ready then to add our egg, which, you know, if you're doing this method, you probably want to leave it for about 10 minutes before you crack it in. But we're just going to, I can feel it's not too bad, so it'll be fine. So crack our egg then into our mix as well. Now at the start of the session, I did this on the stand mixer, but you can do it by hand. What a great way to show you now, because I've made a boo-boo. And I've got just a little hand whisk here that I'm going to use just to whisk through the egg, the cream cheese, and everything together. That's better. Ooh. Make sure you get all the egg. You don't want any unwhisked egg in there. So get the, you don't want any streaks of yolk or anything like that. So it is going to be running because you've got that egg in there it's not going to be a firm mixture. Like with the other one, what I did, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can add a little bit of colour. So I'm using the tangerine from the Pro Gel, just a squeeze in there. And mix it through. There we are. Right then, despite a detour and having to redo a bit, we are pretty much ready then to start assembling. So we've got our oven preheated to 180 degrees 350. We've got our bundt tin prepared with our cake release, and we've got our remade cheesecake filling ready to go. So I've got stuff everywhere today. I'm just gonna move some bits out of the way. When you're baking on a bundt, what I do suggest is that you do pop it onto a baking sheet. That is just in case this is going to have a day and it's going to have it's going to be feeling happy and it's going to be, or you're going to be getting this big rice cake. What we don't then want to do is it to come over the top and it will be over your oven. Most of the time it will be stable, but you don't want that. So pop it onto a baking sheet. Right. Let's get our chocolate cake mix all scraped in. And down. Let's get rid of that one. There's one for Ian and Gina. There we go. Now, what we want is we want to put our cheesecake layer quite, we want it to be sort of about in the bottom third, which is like the top third of the cake. So I'm going to fill the base of it first to about, I'd say about halfway up. Then I'm going to put in my cheesecake filling. And then I'm going to put the rest of the chocolate cake mix on top. Now, the easiest way with a bundt cake is to spoon it in rather than pour it. So just grab your mix with your spatula and go round here. I mean, you don't have to add the cheesecake filling. If you want, you can just go straight in with a lush chocolate cake instead. Let's get that in around. Remember to leave yourself plenty to go on the top as well. So I'm then just going to, just on my work surface, give it a tap, just a gentle tap, but I want it to get into all these bits and pieces around here. And then I'm just going to smooth that over, push it down a little bit with my spoon. Just a little bit more, level it out. Don't bash it too much because we do still want some of the air in there. There we are. So just pop that to the side. Then, now our cheesecake filling here is a little bit runny, but that's fine. It's meant to be like that. It's got that egg in there. So what I tend to do is just with another spoon is make a little bit of a well just going round here for me to help guide my cheesecake filling into, because what we don't want to do is it to touch the sides of the pan, because we don't want it to leak out, bake out. So by pulling up a little bit of a channel in there, we can have somewhere for our cheesecake filling to sit. And just by leveling it off before we do that just means that we've got an idea of where things are going. So with another spoon then, I'm just going to fill, sorry, this is because I'm left-handed, this is the wrong way around. I'm going to fill my channel that I've just made with my cheesecake filling. Being careful not to get any on the sides of my pan. She says, this is the bit of concentration. Right, there we are. I'm not going to tip it up. Because it will start to flow out, but you might just be able to see on the camera there is a sort of ring of orange around the middle. Then we're going to get, again, the last of our cake filling, and again with another spoon, just as we did to the start, just pop it on the top. Now, I'm not pushing this onto the filling, I'm just dropping it on there so it can find its own way through. And I think I might have just broke the dam. That's fine. And just cover it off. Just gonna help it a little bit. Sorry about that, usual thing with Canon cameras, 30 minutes and that's a lot. So this now is ready to go into the oven. I'm going to put it in at 180 for about 45 minutes, and I want to make sure it's well and truly cooked. The centre bit is going to help though that bit cook, and obviously the outside there of the bun pan, but you want it to, don't be tempted to take it out too early. If it's soft when you try and turn it out the tin, it's going to collapse. So let's get this one in, and then we can just have a chat through the last bits and pieces. So I'm going to do that in 20 minutes, turn it around, and then do it for another 25 minutes, just because I know what my oven can be like. Cool, so that's in. Crazily in after a bit of a random moment. But I'm just going to quickly whiz back then and we'll have a look. So we have made a chocolate orange bundt cake. This one that you see here is the Biscoff one. I'll show you those guys in a moment. That size is about a 7-inch bundt pan. You can measure the bundt pans using litres, so it's really easy to scale up. This one is like, I think it's like a 1 litre pan, so you can then scale it up. The easiest way to figure out how big your bundt pan is for scaling up a recipe is to measure it with water. So fill your pan to about 2/3 full with water and find out how much that is in terms of capacity. So when I'm making in the bigger bundt tin, I know that, I think that's like a 2.7 litres, so I know that I'll use double two. I'll make this like 2.5 times the recipe in order to fill that one. And it's really simple. So I hope as you've seen that the cake is just a chocolate cake with that chocolate paste through to make it really rich, and we're using the plain flour to give that structure, that crumb, so when we turn it out it's nice, still nice and light and moist, but it's held together. It's got some structural integrity. It's that they're not good necessarily for using with like box cake mix or any light sponge, because they just sort of sink and collapse when they come out. But it's a really lovely tea time treat. Ingredients wise, you've seen these. Cheesecake filling. Use the cream cheese, not your sour cream for that. So the cream cheese filling is just like a baked cheesecake. So you've got the egg there, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of flour. We've used the orange flavouring, the Valencia orange extract to add a little bit more orangey-ness through there. The chocolate bundt cake, we've got the butter, the sugar again, that white fine caster sugar in there rather than the darker brown sugars, which can make it feel more caramelly. And you've got the chocolate orange. I've got that twice on there. So 50 grams of the chocolate orange is to go in the cake and 50 grams of chocolate is for you to eat. Sour cream on this you can use, or for that, or you can use Greek yogurt, as we found out, because I'd put the sour cream into the cheesecake filling to start with. Oh, my life. Cocoa powder, we've used regular cocoa powder rather than the dark, intense one that I used on the Halloween pumpkin. It's because we just, the chocolate orange is a milk chocolate orange, so we don't want to be overpowering it with the intense dark cocoa powder. So we've just used a regular cocoa powder to complement that there. And the plain flour, rather than, like I said, rather than a box mix or a cake flour or a self-raising flour, the plain flour or the all-purpose flour helps give it that structure and that integrity for when we tip it out of the pan. And the rising agents, because obviously we haven't got those in there, we've got the eggs, but the rising agents, we've got the baking powder and the baking soda just to give it a little oomph. So that's our thing, and that's how it all sort of goes together. When I decorate it, fingers crossed, when it all nicely turns out and it's all lovely and cooked, I'm just going to be making a very simple chocolate glaze, and that is just icing sugar, regular powdered sugar, and a touch of cocoa powder in there as well. And I'm going to be using a milk, using milk rather than water with it, because it will just give it that a little bit more smooth, sort of like we did with the donuts, just that smooth, sort of creamy, sort of nice looking, rather than having a water icing. I'm just going to drizzle that all over the top and probably chuck on some more chocolate orange, some chocolate orange minis, or you could, you know, if you want to, you can pop on some giant bits of chocolate orange, or you can just keep those for you and leave it glazed on the top on its own. Oh dear. Gina says it looks good so far already. Fingers crossed, I'm hoping as well. We've had those few hiccups. But yeah, it looks like it's cooking. Obviously it's cooking, it's in the oven, but it looks like it's working lovely, like I've done in practice. So what happens is that top layer of the cake mix that we put on, but we didn't tap down or smooth over, has baked out and filled all that top bit in, which is sealing in our cheesecake filling. And fingers crossed, I won't know till I turn it out, we've got no leaks on that whatsoever. Oh, fab. Fantastic. When this is baked, what you need to do is, with things like these bigger, like I was saying earlier, with these bigger bundt pans, these more intricate ones, they tend to stick, which is why we've used the cake release and giving it a really good coating of that. But when you release them, it's like any cake, you want to allow it to cool slightly in the tin first. But so when this comes out the oven, don't be tempted to just quickly try and get it out, because it's still baking, it's still soft. So the chances are the bottom part's going to come out with gravity and the top part is just going to stay stuck in there. So you want to leave it for about, I've worked out with that tin and with this tin, it's about 10 to 15 minutes. And that is your critical key time for getting it out. If you take it out before then, it will break, but if you take it out after then as well, because it's all then started to cool in all these nooks and crannies, and things, it's also going to potentially break when you take it out. So after about 10-15 minutes, pop a wire baking tray rack on top and just tip it over and let nature, let gravity do the work slightly, and then it should, fingers crossed, just pull gently off the top. Don't shake it and give it a hard time, because you're going to start breaking that cake up. If you need to, just give it a gentle tap in the places that you think. And that's why the tin that we're using is great if you're not used to, and you're making bundt pan tins for the bundt cakes for the first time, because we haven't got all these grooves and things in there that we're going to get stuff stuck in. Whereas this one, it can be really disheartening. The first time I used this, it just fell to pieces, and it's really disheartening because it's quite a big cake as well. So tip it over, let gravity do the work. If you need to, just gently tap those key areas where you know your cake is going to stick. And that usually on this is these little vaulted things here. But that's the easiest way. And do you know what? If it does stick, that's not a waste of cake. You can use it in trifle if you want to, which makes really good. Or you can use it for making cake rolls, where you can crush all the crumbs up and add some buttercream, and you can make it as a cake roll rather than baking a sponge as well. There's all sorts of things you can do with it. But if you follow just a few guidelines, you can 9 times out of 10 get your bundt cake out without it sticking. But because these are great, if you're not a fruit cake, these look so pretty at Christmas. And like I said, Nordic Ware, who make this, do the one with the fir trees and the gingerbread house, and they're fantastic for Christmas. And if you follow Nigella, you'll have seen her doing the fir tree ones before. So that's pretty much the buns for the moment. This dude is definitely baking away in there. And what I wanted to show you is there are a couple of others over on the website. Let's just ping it over here. And because I love making these, you can find loads. But we've got, let's get rid of that. We've got the Biscoff one, which is the one that you've seen in the pictures there. And we've got there's a video, I think, of this one. Let's have a look. Scroll down. It's not going to load properly this morning for me. So this is this nice tight crumb that we're looking for here. And that's what you're going to get. You've got full instructions, but maybe, here we go. You can see a little bit more. This is making the cookie crust. This uses the Biscoff spread instead of the sour cream. And you can see filling the pan again. and then turning it out, and you can find all the information on that video. And there's also a couple of others. There's the red velvet one, there's a gluten-free rainbow one, and this, when it turns out, has got rainbow sort of layers in, and there's also a caramel and chocolate bundt cake, and these are all made using that same pan that we're using this morning. And you've also got the easy homemade cake release there. So there's lots of things to do and find more of on the website, and have a good go. We are going to be making a couple more of these in the run up to Christmas as well, and things. So yeah, I'm going to let you guys head off. It's another Sunday morning. It's starting to brighten up a little bit here. But thank you as always for sticking with me, even when we realised I've used the wrong ingredient. Easily fixed. That guy is baking away here. He's lovely and risen, I can see. So I've got fingers crossed that that's going to be a really good one when it turns out. Yeah, I'm going to, as always, drink my very cold coffee now. But I'll be popping up all the recipes, hopefully within the next couple of days. We are in the process at the moment of hoping to move house. So things are a bit crazier this way. So if the recipe hasn't gone up straight after the live, that is why. But if you are desperate for recipes, or you want anything, or you want anything, hit down below in the comments, or drop me a message as well, and any ideas. Gina, I've got your hot chocolate bombs are already on the Christmas list. So yes, I've got your message on that one, and I've got a couple of other exciting Christmas ones to go through. We have one more Baking into Autumn episode next week, and we're going to be using custard cream biscuits. So these are one of my all-time retro favorite biscuits. So we're going to be making these as a quick, easy bake as custard cream blondies next week with a little bit of white chocolate. We're going to let the cakes off for a week, and we'll go into that. The following week then, I will be giving you all the information that we're going to be doing for Christmas. We're going to be making our own mincemeat. We're going to be making mince pies and pastries, and we're going to be starting off with a easy Christmas cake as well. So I've got everything ready to go for you for those. So they'll be coming as a whole section on the Facebook page and on the blog very, very soon. So keep a look out for those, and we'll be ready. It is, I know our friends in America have got Halloween, not Halloween, Thanksgiving, now Halloween is over, but here in the UK, we're straight into Christmas this end, scarily, things. But yes, if you are, however, wanting anything in particular, as always, and like I say, please let me know any ideas, and I look forward to making them as well. But for the moment, that guy is baking. I'm hoping everything's going to be working out. And yeah, I'm going to let you guys have your Sunday wherever you are in the world. As always, please stay safe and well. I started these kitchen lives in lockdown 1 UK. We're about to head down into a national lockdown on Thursday, lockdown 2, for 4 weeks into December, until December the 2nd. It is what it is. Just let's make the most of it. Join me on a Sunday and we can keep baking as well. I'm going to be here all the way through, right up to Christmas. So I look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Take care. Thank you very much as always. Have a lovely rest of your weekend, Crummers, and I will see you very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.